If I asked which countries were really important in the past 100 years, you might say the United States, Germany, or maybe Italy if you love fancy stuff and fast cars. However, in this list, there is one country that is not usually remembered but that undoubtedly deserves a special position. We are talking about Japan. Japan really changed the world in the 1900s. Games like Mario, Zelda, and Pac-Man, plus shows like Pokemon and Dragon Ball, came from there. Even if you don't know these, things like digital cameras, flat-screen TVs, and gel pens started in Japan. They made a big impact worldwide. But by the time the 21st century began, Japan's strong influence in economy and culture started to slow down. Let's put it straight, Japan isn't what it used to be. They still make awesome shows like Attack on Titan, but overall, Japan's global presence in the economy has faded since the early 2000s. They got hit hard by a big financial crisis, and since then, their economy has been sluggish, falling way behind other big countries. This doesn't just affect Japan's status as a top economic power, it's hitting their people hard too. For instance, the Japanese have about 40% less money to spend compared to folks in the US. And when it comes to inequality, Japan's ranking is the second highest among OECD countries. Having lots of inequality in a super-rich place like the US might not be as big a deal, but in Japan, where the wealth is more average, it's a bigger problem. Now you might wonder, why did Japan go from leading the world to falling so far behind? Back in the late 1900s, Japan faced a huge crisis when a financial and real estate bubble burst, leaving the country drowning in debt, high joblessness, and a big hit to people's wealth. That tough period became known as the Lost Decade. But the crisis wasn't the only thing slowing Japan down. Actually, it might not have even been the main reason. See, during the 1970s and 1980s when Japan was at its peak, their tech industry was the big thing driving their success. With skilled workers and good ties to the West, Japan became a hub for cheap yet advanced tech. Companies like Sony, Nintendo, and Panasonic ruled the tech world. They were so big that Japan even challenged the US in the microchip business. But things changed in the 1900s. Other Asian countries like Taiwan and South Korea saw Japan's success and decided to follow suit. They copied Japan's tech model. After a while, South Korea, Taiwan, and then China started to compete with Japan. Surprisingly, they became even better and cheaper in making tech stuff than Japan. Basically, the rest of Asia took over Japan's lead in technology. After that, with the financial crisis, Japan didn't do so well. It kind of fell behind, not as important globally, and things got stagnant. But what if things could turn around? What if Japan could be the tech powerhouse it used to be? Today on Brainy Investor, we will explain what these opportunities are that could benefit Japan, and above all, what the problems are that this country must overcome in order to take advantage of them. Are you ready? Of course you are. So let's get cracking. Like I mentioned earlier, Japan faced a tough time because of its money troubles and rivalry from places like South Korea, China, and Taiwan. But hey, every country deals with issues. What's really held Japan back is its struggle to change and fix these problems. The big question is, why hasn't Japan been able to move forward even after 30 years? Well, there are at least 4 main reasons why Japan's economy is stuck in a rut. Let's break them down step by step. Japan faces a significant challenge with a shortage of available workers despite a low unemployment rate of just 2%. This shortage stems from 3 main reasons. First, Japan has the world's oldest population, with a scarcity of young individuals in the workforce. Over 75-year-olds account for more than 15% of the population. Second, traditional cultural norms lead many women to focus on household duties or work part-time, reducing the available workforce. Third, Japan's strict immigration policies limit the inflow of foreign workers, making it challenging for companies to hire from abroad. This not only hampers the country's growth, but also restricts access to new ideas and connections from other regions. One major hurdle in Japan is the struggle for companies to grow significantly. While there are startups and entrepreneurs, they often fail to become large global entities. The established big companies are old, and the new ones struggle to reach that level. Why? Small businesses need investors to expand, but Japan lacks robust venture capital markets willing to take risks, particularly in early-stage ventures. Additionally, when startups start making money, Japanese investors prefer safer, established projects over riskier ones. This forces companies to prioritize short-term profits over long-term potential, hindering their growth. Japan falls behind partly because it doesn't trade much with other countries. With a large local market, companies focus on selling within Japan, missing out on bigger foreign markets and learning from international firms. Without international competition, companies lack the drive to improve, leading to slower growth, fewer innovative ideas, and financial challenges. This stagnation affects their productivity, adding to the third major problem on the list. Japan's labor productivity lags behind quite a bit. To give you an idea, it takes 2 hours of work for a Japanese worker to match what an American does in 1 hour. That means one American is almost as productive as 2 Japanese workers in a day. The work culture plays a big role in this. In the West, work is often measured by results, but in Japan, it's about the hours worked. Japanese employees spend all day at the office and often attend endless company gatherings afterward. Work becomes life, especially for men, until retirement. This leads to social issues like a high suicide rate and seriously hampers productivity. Valuing time at work over results means many hours are spent on unproductive or less useful tasks. Despite long office hours, not much gets done. And there's another issue tied to how people get promoted in Japan's work culture. In many places, getting a promotion at work is based on how good you are at your job. But in Japan, promotions mostly depend on how long you've been with the company, not necessarily your skills. This can be a problem because it keeps talented young people from reaching higher positions for a long time. It also means that even if you're great at your job in one company, if you switch to another, you start from the beginning. This leaves experienced and skilled people stuck in lower roles, missing out on where they could have the most impact. It's like making a soccer star clean the locker room instead of scoring goals. It just doesn't make sense. With all these issues in mind, let's move on to Japan's final big problem. Most of Japan's problems we discussed earlier could get better if foreign companies and investors decide to start projects in the country. They could bring in new work styles, build bigger companies, and even attract skilled workers from other countries. But here's the thing. Japan hasn't been a hotspot for foreign investment, historically speaking. However, that seems to be changing lately, and that's no coincidence. Remember how we mentioned Japan might be on the brink of a big change? Well, the lack of foreign investment could be one of the first problems to shrink or vanish. Let's talk about China and the US. There's been a lot of tension between them, causing many companies to leave China. Here's where Japan steps in. It's a safer, better place with a good relationship with the West. Companies like IBM and Google are already putting millions of dollars into joint projects between the US and Japan, especially in technologies like quantum computing. Now, about those microchips everyone's talking about. Most of them come from Taiwan and South Korea, but Taiwan is in a risky spot because of China. To secure the microchip industry, setting up factories in safer countries is a smart move. Guess where? Yep, Japan is on the list. Companies like TSMC are investing billions to set up chip factories in Japan, making it a top-notch destination to protect against any China-related risks. Japan's been pushing hard to improve its intellectual property and research and development scene. That's not just great for Japan's tech growth, it's also a big draw for foreign companies, especially tech ones, looking for a solid intellectual property setup. So, with all these factors coming together, it looks like Japan is shaping up to be a prime destination for foreign companies, which could help solve a lot of Japan's lingering problems. Another big factor that might attract foreign investment and boost exports for Japanese companies is the weakening yen. Japan's currency, the yen, has been getting weaker over time. This makes it easier for foreign companies to invest in Japan and buy its products. But it also makes it harder for Japan to buy things from other countries, especially fuel. This can be bad for business. There's also a risk when a currency keeps losing value. But things might change soon. We'll talk about that later, so don't forget to subscribe to Brainy Investor. Japan has a lot of potential in renewable energy like wind and solar. It's also making trade deals with other countries, like the EU. This means Japan could get more foreign investment in the future. This could help Japan grow by changing its old ways, working smarter, and connecting with the world. Japan is also trying out immigration. It's slowly opening up to newcomers. This shows Japan is aiming for a more diverse and dynamic future. As you can observe, the influx of foreign workers into Japan has been steadily increasing over the past few years. The total number of workers doubled between 2013 and 2018, and there's an expectation that these figures might continue to rise, which could play a crucial role in enhancing the development of the Japanese economy. Now, considering the challenges and new opportunities in Japan, it's time to hear your thoughts. Do you believe the issues in China can actually boost the Japanese economy? Or is it just a temporary illusion? Can international investment help address Japan's labor culture problems? And how do you foresee the immigration situation unfolding in Japan? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, please remember to like and subscribe to Brainy Investor. Best wishes, and I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time. Thank you.